Don't let YouTube decide what information you get. That's your choice. YouTube is deleting our videos and cuts you off from a source of honest reporting. Make sure you don't lose access to NTD's news content, and take a quick moment to subscribe to our newsletter so no matter what happens here, you'll keep your access to a trustworthy news source.
Airline staff protested for medical freedom over the weekend. On Friday afternoon, they gathered outside American Airlines headquarters in Dallas, Texas, just the latest of several protests from within the airline industry. Here are the details.
Current and former airline staff, their families, and supporters rallied outside American Airlines headquarters in Dallas Friday. They're calling for medical freedom and for their employers to not enforce the federal vaccine mandate.
The idea that one human being would have domain over another human being is just fundamentally un-American.
They also raise concerns and questions they say have gone unanswered.
There's concerns about the vaccinated pilots and having blood clots or having heart issues up at altitude in flight. If we fly with 2 vaccinated pilots, is that going to be a problem? Should we have one vaccinated and one unvaccinated pilot up on the flight deck? These are all concerns of all of us that have not been addressed by the FAA, and they need to be.
This American Airlines pilot says he served in the Marine Corps for 24 years, fighting for people's rights at home and abroad. Now he says he's continuing that fight.
I love America, but I love my God and my freedoms more.
He says he wants an explanation as to why airline staff were deemed essential and worked throughout the pandemic, yet now are being threatened with their job if they don't get vaccinated. President Joe Biden ordered a vaccine mandate for all federal contractors last month. That encompasses most airlines. Protesters are now calling on airline CEOs to unite against the mandate.
Just stop carrying mail and stop volunteering for the craft mission. If all the airlines came together and said, fine, we're not going to carry mail anymore, you think that wouldn't have an effect? You think they would, if they did that, they'd stand up to the government and get a change? Just like we're standing up here and asking for change.
Many of the protesters NTD spoke to said there's alternatives to the vaccine to prevent or cure a COVID infection. Some also gave anecdotes of successful treatments.
There's tons of things we can do, but that's all hidden because there's no money in taking vitamin D, vitamin C, zinc, quercetin, and other things that work. And ivermectin works. I had a friend of mine, I had to get her ivermectin to get it to her because she had gone like 10 days. And you know what? A day later, after taking ivermectin, she was better immediately. So this stuff works, but there's no money in ivermectin. That's like 12 cents a pill.
These women are married to pilots and were wearing their husbands' uniforms. They called the mandate divisive and said it puts unnecessary stress on workers.
We are all equal. We are all God's children. And this is another way for the government, for American Airlines, any other big company that's enforcing these tyrannical mandates to divide people. And with pilots, our husbands have enough stress being in the cockpit. Management, shame on you for adding to the stress they have. You are supposed to shield them from stress, not be the cause of it.
U.S. Freedom Flyers helped organize the protest. The group is a grassroots coalition of transportation industry employees fighting against the federal vaccine mandate. Southwest Airlines said on Friday that the company will not fire employees who remain unvaccinated after the federal deadline. Protesters are hoping other airlines will follow suit.
And 2 San Francisco prosecutors resigned and have joined a campaign to recall their former boss, San Francisco District Attorney Chesa Boudin. They cited disagreeing with his policies. NTD's Jason Blair has more.
2 prosecutors who served under San Francisco District Attorney Chesa Boudin have resigned and joined a recall effort to get Boudin replaced.
My decision to resign was the result of a growing belief that Chesa Boudin lacks the desire and willingness to prosecute crime effectively in San Francisco.
Brooke Jenkins and Don Dubain are now assisting recall campaign Safer SF without Boudin.
We are a Democratic-led campaign composed of a diverse coalition of community leaders, small business owners, and families.
Over 83,000 signatures were submitted on Friday and now have 30 days to be verified. This is about 32,000 more than needed to get the recall vote on the ballot next year.
I must say I have lost my confidence in Chesa Boudin to serve as our elected district attorney.
Boudin says that Boudin selectively enforces laws according to both his own political priorities and his concern about public perception.
Simply releasing someone without any consequence is not reform, and it is not progressive. San Francisco deserves a district attorney that will use a balanced approach to criminal justice.
Both former prosecutors gave examples of cases they worked on where Boudin's involvement and actions eventually led to their decisions to resign. Boudin described one case he was prosecuting where Boudin directed him to recommend a more lenient sentence to the judge. Boudin felt this reduced sentence was not justified and even in violation of state laws.
What's so progressive or reform-minded about recommending a sentence that is more lenient than the law provides and authorizes for a 4-time convicted domestic batterer who's now been convicted of shooting his girlfriend with a firearm?
Boudin says that the recall campaign against him is funded by dark money.
We are seeing more money spent by these dark money groups to oust a sitting district attorney than has ever been seen anywhere in this country.
The San Francisco Department of Elections has 1 month to verify the recall signatures. If at least 51,325 are verified, a vote to recall Boudin will be held in June of 2022. Jason Blair, NTD News, San Francisco.
The Biden administration is rejecting the Texas governor's second plea for financial help to secure the southern border. The governor says Texas officers are working to build human barricades to block illegal immigrants from flooding the state. NTD's Melina Weiskup reports.
Texas Governor Greg Abbott has twice called on President Biden to reimburse Texas for the millions spent handling the border crisis. But so far, those pleas have gone unanswered.
In a Sunday letter, the Federal Emergency Management Agency, or FEMA director, denied Abbott's request, saying that his calls for financial support is unwarranted. The governor first called for federal help last month. He says Texas has been experiencing a crisis since May. The governor did not give a specific dollar amount on what they've spent on the border surge, but he says they've sent thousands of National Guard members and state police to help.
We formed a human barricade to prevent those people from coming into the state of Texas.
And Abbott says their officers are preparing now to do this again in preparation for a large caravan that is potentially making its way to the state. This footage from the weekend shows thousands of migrants trekking from the city of Tapachula near the Guatemala border toward Mexico's capital. Mexico lets visa and asylum applicants stay in Chiapas while their cases are being processed. But they can't leave beyond this area without documentation. Some are now demanding help from the Mexican government.
The Mexican authorities should be made aware, because everything here is very expensive and we cannot be held here. It is as though we have been in prison.
An organizer for this group says not everyone wants to go to America, but would like to have the documentation to have a choice.
And U.S. authorities have already arrested nearly 2 million migrants so far this year, the most ever recorded. And with the Biden administration's latest move rejecting Texas's call for emergency assistance, well, it looks like the Lone Star State will have to handle this on their own for now. Reporting in Washington, D.C., Melina Weiskup, NTD News.
And the U.S. State Department announces the details of travel restrictions for foreign visitors. All travelers must provide a negative virus test before boarding a plane to the U.S., even if they're vaccinated.
Those who are eligible to travel but not yet vaccinated will need to provide proof of a negative COVID-19 test within 1 day before their flight's departure. For those who are vaccinated, the testing requirement remains 3 days before their flight. And that testing requirement applies to everyone, not just foreign nationals, but also U.S. citizens and lawful permanent residents.
Beginning November 8th, foreign nationals must be fully vaccinated and provide proof of vaccination before they can board a flight to the U.S. There are limited exceptions for children under 18 and certain individuals from countries where vaccines are not yet readily accessible. But they still have to show a negative virus test. There will also be new federal contact tracing requirements. CDC officers will spot check passengers after they arrive in the U.S. to see if they are complying. Airlines that don't enforce the requirements could be fined up to nearly $35,000 per violation. The National School Boards Association is apologizing for its contentious letter to the Biden administration. In the letter, the school board group compared alleged parent threats to domestic terrorism. Here are the details.
After a wave of outcry from parents, local school boards, and politicians, the National School Boards Association has apologized for its letter to President Joe Biden. In a memo issued to its members, the board said, "On behalf of NSBA, we regret and apologize for the letter." The board went on to say there was no justification for some of the language included in the letter. Here's what they're referring to. In the original letter, the NSBA commented on alleged threats and acts of violence from parents toward public school officials, saying these heinous actions could be the equivalent to a form of domestic terrorism. It's this comparison to domestic terrorism that got the most backlash. Numerous parents saw the letter as an intimidation tactic to stop them from speaking up at school board meetings. School board organizations in at least 20 states distanced themselves from the NSBA, citing disagreement over the way it has characterized parents. Some school boards plan to leave the National Association. In its apology letter, the NSBA said it was sorry for the strain and stress it caused the organizations, and added that it deeply values the voices of parents. Over the last several months, parents have gotten increasingly involved in their local school districts. They're focusing on issues like mask policies, quasi-Marxist critical race theory curriculum, and sex ed.
Denver International Airport is desperately looking for staff now that it's returning to normal opening hours. It needs around 1,000 people and organized a job fair expecting thousands to show up. But the actual turnout wasn't even close. NTD's Evelyn Lee reports.
A job fair was held over the weekend at Denver International Airport. It hoped to attract 5,000 people, but instead 100 showed up. Ira Wolf, president at Success Performance Solutions, says those expectations were unrealistic to begin with.
The businesses, the communities that are close to the airport are basically higher income areas. The positions that they were hiring for, mostly in the food service and the concessions and janitorial and maintenance, are lower skilled, lower wages.
And on top of that, the number of people who are willing or qualified to work is low. The job fair intended to fill about 1,000 job openings at stores, restaurants, and other businesses at the airport, because starting November, normal operating hours will return. Wolf says the pandemic exposed all the vulnerabilities in the labor economy. According to him, many women had to withdraw from the workplace, but they make up an increasing chunk of the workforce.
And now women, because of childcare and parenting and other issues, have withdrawn from the workplace, and their participation rate's down to 52%.
The labor shortage could lead to huge security lines at the airport, with more travelers coming back. A lack of shuttle bus drivers is also making it difficult for the shuttle to fully reopen. And last month, about 350 janitors voted to authorize a strike for better working conditions and better pay. Evelyn Lee, NTD News.
Getting paid time off after having a child has been a hot topic lately. But what about getting a new pet? Should workers still get paid time off? NTD's Phil Zoe has the story.
Sorry. No, Abby.
A worker in London asked for paid time off because he just got a new puppy.
That's a lot.
His boss took to the internet with a survey, getting over 30,000 responses.
So we all know about paternity leave. What about Pawternity leave?
Pawternity is a new term that's been flying around the pet world. Workers wondering if they can get paid time off after getting a pet.
For pet parents to bond with their animals. Right. I just never heard of time, paid leave for it.
Rob has been a dog owner for 6 years.
I mean, as an employer, giving paid vacation or paid leave for a new pet, that's a big perk, an expensive perk.
He says a good alternative is to work from home while taking care of the new dog.
My daughter just got a dog from a shelter this weekend, so she is actually able to work from home for 3 days.
In the U.S., only 1 in 5 workers currently get paid family leave.
And everybody should be able to get paternity leave, and then we could probably talk about paternity leave, I guess, yeah.
Jenny has been a dog owner for over 20 years. She says paternity is worth considering.
I mean, some people can't have children and they treat their dogs as if they are family, so
I mean, I don't know that they need 3 months off like most maternity and paternity leaves are, but yeah, I mean, maybe a couple weeks.
Another solution is doggy daycare.
So the dogs are here to meet their BFFFF, best furry friend forever, while the pet parents are off at work, and then it's better quality time when they get home.
The survey in London ended with 60% voting against puppy paternity leave, and the rest for it. Phil Zhou, NTD News, New York.
Thanks for watching us on YouTube. Don't forget to catch all of our programs on TV. NTD Evening News is on every weekday at 6:30 p.m. Find your local NTD channel at ntd.com/TV.